Hey, y'all need a break. Listen to these stories from our /AskReddit. What's the most not safe for work experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? I watched a man fall when his rappelling gear failed. He fell about 100 feet, and the sound his body made when he hit will haunt me forever. He broke his spine, pelvis, both legs, one arm, and an orbital bone, but he survived. There were a lot of people around to give first aid, and I helped carry him out of the canyon to the ambulance, and I swear I thought he was dead already. He looked like thawed hamburger meat. The Rangers? Park Police? Not sure what they were. Took our info, and a few days later, to our surprise, the guy was alive and wanted to see the people who carried him out. He gave us all some really nice leather backpacks from the company he worked for. I still have it some 20 plus years later. Edit/update. The guy was in the hospital for many weeks, but after a very long rehab he made a nearly full recovery. That was mostly due to him being in really good physical shape before the accident. Growing up in Kenya, I would witness thieves getting beaten up then burned alive. I have experienced more than 8 of them. The first one when I was like 5 years old. I can still smell the burning corpses. A fentanyl overdose. Was a younger woman, couldn't have been older than 23 or 24. Thankfully, I and someone else nearby both called 911, and the paramedics showed up in time to resuscitate her. She lunged at one of the paramedics after regaining consciousness, then ran off. Her cousin witnessed the whole thing, and it was pretty obvious it effed him up pretty bad. Ended up buying the poor guy breakfast, and the whole time he was more or less in shock, saying how she was like a little sister to him. This wasn't the person he knew. She'd never do something like this. A coworker, just before quitting, took a crap in their cubicle. They wanted to have him charged with indecent exposure, but since no one saw him besides me and I wasn't admitting to having seen it, they dropped it. They also tried to use the defecating in public laws, but the police pointed out that their office was in fact private, not a public space. The man became a legend around the office. Driving home in a snowstorm and a BMW passes me like I'm parked. They get about a mile ahead of me and I see the tail lights swerving, then I see headlights tail lights as the car spins round and round. Then it starts rolling. I hit my hazards and come to a stop. I get up to the car and it's empty. I look, and about 50 feet is someone on the ground. I get up to her. She is on her back and her neck is clearly broken, at a very unnatural position, but her waist is twisted 180 degrees and her toes facing down. She's obviously dead. A man ran up and tried to convince me that we needed to start CPR. 2 others had to explain to him it was too late. Every time I drive through there I see her face. I went to Rainbow Gathering a few years ago. There were various camps with their own themes. Some places made coffee, some were art camps, there was one Bread of Life, a Christian kitchen, and just around the bend was the Ludus Temple. They were a bunch of crust punks that were into putting on quite a show. I was walking through all the camps and heard some folk/bluegrass music playing. It caught my attention, so I decided to check it out. Oh man, wish I hadn't. They had a guy in the mud getting spit roasted by 2 girls with strap-ons, while a full band was playing Wagon Wheel in front of full audience. I almost forgot about that. Edit, typos. I was working the customer service desk at a sporting goods store. One of my job duties was clearing any gun that people brought into the store, usually to get it sighted in by our techs or to see if our gun counter would buy it from them. Some dude comes in with a massive .338 Lapua rifle. Imagine the little brother of the Barrett 50 caliber you see in movies and games. It's at least a $5,000 to $6,000 gun. Well, apparently the dude who owns it is all money and no sense, because he walks in and immediately starts violating the most basic of gun safety rules. His fingers just casually hanging out in the trigger guard as he comes in, and he's sweeping the entire store with the muzzle as he walks. I put on my best customer service face and ask him to put the gun down so I can ask him the routine questions before I can clear the gun. While putting it down, he once again flags me with the barrel while his fingers on the trigger. I keep my cool and get to my questions. If he answers no to all of them, then I'm good to clear the gun. There's a few of them, but the one that matters here is there any ammunition in the chamber or magazine of the firearm? He says no to everything, so I put the barrel into the clearing trap and rack the bolt back. Lo and behold, a live round pops out and reveals the full magazine. The safety was off, which means this guy was flagging a store of people, and me, with a gun that was one slip of the finger away from making a very large hole in myself and probably at least one other person. Going back to my apartment after college classes ended. Homeless people effing right outside my apartment complex by a tree. I try not to make eye contact. Hey, you want to join? Oh no, thanks. Have a good night. I wasn't there for this, but my coworkers were at a lunch and a woman pulled out her boob and squirted milk at a very high-ranking employee across the table. Ah yes, The forbidden christening. I've been on the receiving end of this treat as a paramedic transporting a naked woman, high on crack, that would not stop masturbating. A coworker at a factory got a set of shop shears caught in an extrusion puller. Link is safe for work, just a page for a manufacturer of said equipment that has pictures of the gear so you can see what it does. The shears got tangled in a strip of plastic that had got wrapped around the belt, and when the shears rounded the turn with his fingers stuck in them, it basically ripped his hand in half, nearly twisting his thumb, middle finger, and forefinger off. All because he thought he could clear a jam/tangle without having to stop and restart the line. Saving 15 minutes cost him a functioning hand. In a club in Berlin, Germany. It was quite sex positive. A woman in her 30s sat down next to me on a weird chair and we started chatting. At some point during the conversation, a man kneeled down in front of her and started to fist her, consensually. She didn't break eye contact. She didn't even flinch. She just continued the conversation like normal. I had no idea how to deal with that and didn't want to be rude, so we continued the conversation and I tried to ignore the man who had half his arm in her vagina. You were speaking to a very sophisticated hand puppet. A woman on train pooped, a hard crap ball which just dropped out of her gown, which she proceeded to pick up, smell, then throw out of the window. She then started talking to a man which soon turned to them fondling one another. Soon after, police showed up, dropped them at the next station where railway police force took them. Because they were clearly unstable, so possibly to the nearest asylum. Ran into a burning house as a teenager. It was an old couple just a few houses down from mine. Got through the living room, into the dining area, but smoke started getting bad. Got down on my knees and crawled to the hallway, to look into the bedrooms. The couple were dead, in bed, burning. I know this by the shape of the lumps, not because they were recognizable. I learned 2 things. 1. Don't ever run into a burning house. It's dumb. I got lucky. 2. The smell of burning humans is something you never forget. Driving Uber, I caught a dude jerking off in my car. Turned around and he had his member in one hand and his phone in the other hand recording it. It kind of stunned me at how bold he was. I kicked him out and still charged him for the entire ride. This was one of the reasons I bought a dual-facing dashcam. A girl blowing a guy at a bus stop at like 2 a.m. She then threw up and continued sucking him off. Never change Glasgow. Edit, for everyone worried it was them. It was in June of 2013. I don't know if Giant Eagle is a grocery store you can find across all of the US, but I was doing some grocery shopping on my lunch break and a guy came into the store with a gun, apparently intending to kill one of the cashiers. Later found out it was the guy's ex-girlfriend, and then himself, but he ended up shooting himself in the head. I just happened to be 2 checkout lanes away from him when it happened. Edit, I can link the story if anyone is interested. Sadly, nothing much came from it though. I was in a train compartment sitting by a window. It was broad daylight. There were 2 young students, boy and girl. Suddenly the girl opened the guy's fly and started to jack him off. I did not know how to react, as nothing like that happened to me before. Also, they blocked my way to the corridor. They did not even close the curtains, so the conductor girl passing by saw them too, and apparently did not know how to react as well. Then they got off on the very next stop. I think they did not have a ticket. I was working at an accounting office doing data entry as a part-time job in college, sitting at my desk. Somehow I'd scored a desk by the window, but with my back to it, of course. I'm busy doing my work, and I hear someone yell, "Oh no!" and then stop. At the top of her lungs and banging on the big glass window. I turned around and looked out the window just in time to see a woman's head get run over by the rear wheels of a Coke delivery truck that was backing up. So much blood and bits of brain. It sort of exploded and went everywhere, including the glass right in front of me. Apparently she was some sort of architectural historian or something taking pictures of our building. She stepped back, and fell off the curb, just as the truck was backing up to make his delivery for our vending machines. I will never forget that. Edit, I found an article on it. I may not be remembering all the details correctly, as it was over 20 years ago, but that's my memory, anyway. I worked the night shift and had just returned home around 4:30 a.m. and went to check the mail. My girlfriend and I round the corner and see a girl bent over on top of a car getting railed by a guy. We immediately turn around and walk to my door, but then have second thoughts to turn around and check if she's okay and not being attacked or anything. Turns out she is a coworker and she was definitely very okay with what was going on. Driving on an interstate highway about 75 miles per hour when I see the car in the left lane start to drive a little erratically. As I passed the car on the right, I saw what looked like the male passenger finger banging the woman driving, who looked like she was having an orgasm. I quickly got away from them to avoid an accident. Edit, for all those who are asking, this happened in New York State around 2010. The only thing I can say about the couple was it looked like they were in their late 50s or early 60s. I was on holiday with my wife in the Canary Islands. We were on the beach all day and we made the mistake of taking a shortcut through the sand dunes. It was a hot, sweaty and tiring walk and surprisingly long walk, then we wandered into a porn shoot. 2 lithe young ladies getting it on. Full XXX rated content. Nobody batted an eyelid except to motion us around the back of the camera to keep us out of view. So we just kept on walking to the hotels. Very, very surreal. My gym is on the 2nd floor and has big windows facing the parking lot. One day I was standing at the window catching my breath and happened to look down. There, in one of the parked cars, were 2 of the other members completely naked and going to town. The woman's face wasn't visible but she had a distinctive tattoo, so I immediately knew who they were. On the plus side, working out was really paying off for them as they both looked quite fit. I went to Seoul with a few friends one year and we ended up in a kind of expat bar. A friend of a friend who taught English there showed up with this super drunk American girl. American girl was being really obnoxious and aggressively flirting with this Korean guy at the bar. At one point my friend nudges me and points, and the guy is very obviously fingering her right in the booth in front of everyone, and she's moaning like she's in a porno. It was actually really loud in the bar and so not everyone noticed it at first, but then as we all slowly did it became really awkward as we didn't know whether to get up and leave them at the table or not. We kind of wondered if she was too drunk to realize she was in public and being so loud. The guy was also drunk AF and was just staring down her shirt, lol. Sometimes when I'm drunk I do embarrassing things, but I can't say I can top that. My friend asked me to drive him and his girlfriend around the hinterlands so he could F her in the backseat, as they apparently had no place else to go and. Oh hell, I don't know the reason. We were in high school and it made sense at the time. Anyway, I was chauffeuring them around the remote country roads while they got progressively hotter and heavier in the back. I resisted looking in the rear view mirror because the interest I had in seeing his girlfriend sans clothing was more than offset by the lack of interest I had in seeing my dude that way. But after a few minutes, she mumbled, "That's not it." A few seconds later, a little more assertively, "That's not it." And then again and again, like 5 or 6 times. Finally, she sits up and just shouts at him, "That's not it." He sticks his head into the front seat and in exasperation asks me, "Dude, do you want to try?" All I can find is her a-hole. I politely declined, and the 2 of them got dressed and sat as far from one another as possible while I drove them back to the keg party from which we'd originally departed. She wisely broke up with him the next morning. Here's one of the funnier ones. I was doing a health and safety/security patrol at a multi-day music festival, doing a walk around in a field used as a parking area. All looked well, so I stopped to have a breather when this naked guy pops out of some tall perimeter grass. He was very high, completely sunburned, and a ginger at that, and sporting a really huge boner. I mean big. Like a horse cock. And he asks me if I've got any water with me. So I walk over and find his equally high, sunburned, and totally nude female companion laying in the dirt, and she starts giggling her face off while thanking me for saving them. I had a supply pack with me, so I gave them each a bottle of water and tried to convince them to get out of the sun and seek shelter. But as soon as they downed the water, they started effing right on the ground, right in front of me. So I proceeded to pull out my spray sunblock and explained loud and slow to them that I was going to spray them down, which I did while they continued their boinking. I finished up, left another bottle of water by them, and then walked a bit away to give them some privacy while I radioed the situation and location into the festival paramedics. I will never forget how big that boner was, and I hope it was spared peeling from that terrible sunburn. Ouch. Walked in on 2 coworkers having an affair. He later cornered me and threatened me. She is my brother-in-law's best friend's wife, and I've known him a lot longer than she has. I reported it, mainly the threat, to HR and talked to my sister about it to see if she and her husband wanted to talk to him about it. I got written up by the VP and the conduct team of where I worked because I told my sister about it. Allegedly I put the woman at risk because, and I quote conduct, her husband is most likely going to beat her over this. I've known him for over 30 years, he doesn't have a violent bone in his body, and if he showed any signs, he wouldn't still be good friends with my sister and her husband. A few years later, did he ever beat her? Nope. Did they go to counseling? Yes. I was at my birthday party with a girl who I was dating at the time. For context, she had been advised by her doctor not to drink, because she had attempted suicide in the past while blackout drunk by taking a bottle of Tylenol. Her late fiancé died in bed next to her from sleep apnea complications, and it understandably sent her into a profound depression. Knowing this tragedy, I had tried to be as supportive as possible. With that out of the way, I can paint this lovely picture. I didn't even notice that she had gotten her hands on a drink until she started grabbing my arm and loudly telling me she wanted to F. Mind you, my brother and several of my friends are all in the room. It was initially kind of funny, and I was trying to tell her that we'd have to wait, but she then got really aggressive. She laid down on the couch and pulled up her dress in front of the party, vagina fully exposed, and started playing with herself loudly asking me to F her. Everyone at the party was obviously stunned and hoping the moment would end. I tried to cover her up and tell her she was being inappropriate, and she started yelling, "F you. Don't tell me what to do." My friend's girlfriend finally got her to settle down and cover up her snatch. She started to pass out shortly after. I carried her into my friend's room and closed the door. Everyone kind of laughed in relief, and we had a fun rest of the night. I awoke on the couch with her in a robe next to me. I was still annoyed with her, so I got up to move to the other couch when I saw my buddy scrubbing the carpet in the hall. Come to find out, she had crap all over his floor. She apparently rolled around in it and dragged herself across the hall, leaving a snail trail to the bathroom. The bathroom looked like a crap murder scene. Crap handprints smeared on the walls and all. She had evidently tried to rinse off, put a robe on, and snuggled up with me. I woke her up and had to inform her of what she did and asked her to leave. She was horrified. I felt bad, but she had already peed in my bed and was generally causing some issues, so this was more than the last straw. I didn't hang out with her again, bless her soul. TLDR, a girl openly exposed her vagina at my birthday party while yelling for me to F her, and then she crapped all over the place in the night. Watched a grown man pull a mobile phone out of his butt. It's for you. No, thanks, I don't do booty calls. Thanks for watching. Have you ever witnessed something NSFW? Share your story in the comments below for others to enjoy, and then like and subscribe for more Reddit stories.